Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Happy to be here. I honestly believe I'm probably the reason why we don't see the whole church here.
Peut-être, moi, c'est raison qui fait nous toute l'église là la soirée.
J'ai mal fait annonce.
Peut-être, maybe I give the announcement wrong.
Pas jeudi seulement, non, c'est pendant toute semaine, non, pas ouais.
It's not only today, but throughout the week that we haven't seen them.
C'est parce que nous avons mis focus que la conférence a plus pour le ministère anglais.
Because we place the focus on the English ministry.
Honestly, we even said, I personally said,
Moi-même, t'ai personnellement dit.
We won't even translate.
Voilà traduit.
So I blame myself before anyone else.
Blâmer tête moi avant tout l'autre monde.
What did we talk about on Sunday?
Sunday parler dimanche.
Talk to us.
We talked about racism and discrimination.
Racism and discrimination.
Racisme avec discrimination.
Monday.
Lundi. Tu parlais de drogue.
Was it? What was the subject?
Substance abuse.
Substance
Monday
abuse.
was
Was
danger
it?
of drugs.
Huh?
Danger of drugs.
The danger of drugs. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Stress.
Peer pressure and stress. Yeah.
Okay.
Pression avec stress.
And yesterday?
Yeah.
Self-care.
Self-care.
Comment on peut prendre soin de tête, non?
Now, how about today? What are we talking about today?
Jeudi, avec qui ça n'a parlé?
Family relationships.
Family relationships.
Relation en famille.
Now, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Moi, je vais honnête avec nous.
I'm still learning.
Toujours à apprendre.
All right. It's gonna be 25 years soon since I've been a father,
Il prend 25 ans depuis que je deviens père.
but I'm still learning.
Moi, toujours à apprendre.
To be honest, recently sitting down with Junior,
Pour mon honnête avec récemment, je suis avec Junior.
I learned a lot.
Moi, j'apprends en pile.
I'm being honest here, saying that I'm still learning.
Moi, honnête avec vous, je dis que je suis toujours à apprendre.
That being said,
Pour tout ça,
understand that I'm not sitting here as an expert.
moi, je suis là pas comme expert.
As a matter of fact, it's going to be a debate tonight.
À ce moment, c'est un débat la vie.
And the reason for it,
Raison ça,
there seems to be some type of conflict between the parents and the kids.
semble qu'on conflit entre parents avec tes moun yo.
They don't understand each other.
Ils pas comprendre l'autre.
And I believe the best way to solve this problem
Moi, crois que meilleure façon pour nous résoudre problème ça,
is having a debate between parents and kids,
c'est pour nous avoir un débat entre tes moun yo avec grand moun yo.
and then to find out what the problem is
Pour voir côté problème là
and how to solve it.
et comment pour résoudre lui.
And that's one of the things we're going to have tonight.
C'est une bagage que nous avons bien à faire.
Family relations.
Relation famille.
Technically, I was supposed to start by defining what a family is,
Techniquement, tu es supposé commencer par définir sa famille.
but we're not going to do that tonight.
Nous pas faire ça.
I know you all guys know what a family is,
Pensez que nous tous connaissons ça en famille.
especially in the church context.
Et spécialement dans le contexte
So we're going to save this time for something else.
n'a quitté dans ça pour l'autre bagaille.
Yeah. There was a joke.
Il y a une blague.
I can't remember who gave me that joke,
Pas sûr qu'il me une blague ça.
but it's the Haitianity test.
C'est un test pour être haïtien.
It's the kids that came up with it.
C'est Timonio qui vient avec jet ça.
How do we know you are a Haitian kid?
Comment faire reconnaître que sont Timon haïtien?
And then they said the answer. Can somebody guess the answer?
L'église, l'école,
La caille,
The
yes.
3 L's.
Yeah, 3 L. L'église, yes.
I was dying when I heard this. The 3 L's. La
Church,
caille,
school,
l'église, l'école.
home.
Yeah.
Three things.
The three L's in Haitian Creole.
Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, it's true for many of us.
Honnêtement, ça c'est vrai pour plus en pile dans nous-mêmes.
Especially the church goers.
Spécialement monde qui a l'église.
What I'm gonna start today
Ça va commencer à soir.
by talking about the roles of the parents and the role of the kids.
On va commencer pour parler rôle parents et puis rôle timonio.
Now, if you ask any parent whose kids has gone astray,
Souvent les n'importe parents que timonio quitte Kaila ou bien quitte ça.
what has happened?
Qui ça t'est passé?
Now, for the parents who are here, correct me if I'm wrong.
Pour parents qui là corriger me si m'pa menti.
Most of them will say,
En pile nan yo ap di,
I don't know.
ba konnen,
I give them everything they need.
ba ou tout ça te besoin.
I feed them.
Mwen ba ou manger,
I clothe them.
mwen mette à tout yo,
I make sure they go to school and church.
mwen fè sûr à l'église à l'école,
I spank them.
mwen kale yo,
I don't know.
ba konnen.
I did everything I could.
Mwen te fè tout ça m'te capable.
Is that right?
Et pas vrai?
Is that fair to say?
Est-ce que c'est juste pour nous dire ça?
Okay. Now, on the other hand, and that will show you there is a problem.
Yeah, dans l'autre façon tout, on pourrait que gon problème.
When you ask the kids
L'on mande ti moun
who
yo,
have gone astray,
qui quitte ça, qui quitte Kaila,
they will in turn blame their parents.
et en retour, il y a blâmé parents yo.
Some of them will say they were never there for me.
En puis il a dit que parents yo pas là pour yo.
And some will say they don't understand me.
En puis il a dit que parents pas comprendre yo.
Many will say they don't trust me.
En puis il a dit que parents pas faire confiance.
For the parents, it's not them, it's the kids.
Pour parents yo, c'est pas faute yo, c'est faute ti moun yo.
And for the kids, it's not them, it's the parents.
Pour ti moun yo, c'est pas faute yo, c'est faute parents yo.
It's a serious problem.
Son problème sérieux.
It's a serious problem. And we need solutions.
Et nous besoin solution.
And that's why we're here tonight.
Et ça fait nous là soir.
That's why we're here tonight. Now, where is the problem?
Qu'on y a côté problème là yé.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to start by saying we're all guilty.
Moi bonne là pour dire nous tous coupables.
We all are guilty.
Nous tous nous coupables.
I want to read some text before anything.
Moi vle lire quelques passages avant de commencer.
God created family
Bon Dieu t'a créé famille,
and give each party a responsibility,
mais chaque monde responsabilité yo.
whether it is parents or kids.
Qui tes parents ou petit monde.
Let's read Proverb 22.
À nous lire Proverbe 22.
Proverb 22, verse 6.
Proverbe 22, verset 6.
We're going to spend some time in the Bible, but that we won't stay too long.
On pas sorti dans la Bible là, mais nous pas prêter tellement.
I'm not preaching or having a Bible study here.
Nous pas prêcher ou bien faire étude biblique à ça.
Chapter 22, verse 6. And
Proverbe 22, verset 6.
I would like one of you to read it, please.
Wait, what verse?
6. Proverb 22, verse 6. 22, 6. 22, verse 6.
And it reads, "Stir children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it."
Amen. Praise the Lord. Ephesians 6, verse 4.
Éphésiens 6, verset 4.
And we'll come back to those texts we
Et
read.
n'a pas tourné sous texte ça.
Ephesians 6, verse 4.
Éphésiens 6, verset 4.
The kids are going to love this one.
Tu viens premier verset ça.
Ephesians 6, 4. Somebody?
And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
Amen to that. We have another one. Colossians 3:21.
Gon l'autre Colossiens 3, verset 21.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Colossians 3, verse 21.
Yes, sir.
And it reads, "Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged."
Mm-hmm. The Bible make provision for the parents and for the kids.
Bibla fait provision pour parents yo et pour ti moun yo.
What does that mean to start the children off the way they should go?
Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire pour lever ti moun yo jan ou doit aller?
Honestly, it is deeper than take them to church or show them to pray.
Les plus profond que mener à l'église ou bien enseigner comment pour prier.
As a matter of fact, a lot of us,
En effet, en pile nous-mêmes,
parents,
parents yo,
we use prayer or the word of God as punishment for the
nous
kids.
utiliser prière ou bien parole bon Dieu comme punition pour ti moun yo.
I've heard parents telling their kids,
Dans des parents qui ti moun yo.
"You've been watching TV all day.
Ou gade télévision toute journée, hein?
Go read your Bible."
À lire Bible.
It's like reading the Bible is a punishment.
C'est comme si lire Bible son punition.
Oh, go to pray.
À prier.
And I heard a parent telling her kid,
Donner aux parents qui dit ti moun.
"You can't even spend 1 minute praying.
On peut quand même passer une minute à prier.
Okay, stand up here and pray for 10 minutes."
Camper là et prier pour 10 minutes.
And you're telling me you're not guilty.
Et pour un petit peu ou pas coupable.
And it's honestly it's education.
Honnêtement, c'est éducation.
But as I said last night, Haitians parents don't want to learn.
J'aime d'ap dire soit un pile parents haïtiens ils pas veulent apprendre.
One thing parents can do,
On va que parents qu'a fait.
because remember we say raising the kids in the way they should go is more than going to church.
Songez nous dit que le vêtement dans Jean supposé aller c'est plus que venir dans l'église.
How about personify prayer in the house?
Et si nous t'a personnifié prière dans Kaila?
What do I mean by that?
Qui ça me dit par là?
As you praying,
Pendant à prier,
you can invite them to join you,
ou inviter au venir joindre nous,
or hearing you praying, they can learn how to
ou
pray.
bien pendant il y a temps de prier, il y a pas apprendre comment pour prier.
How about,
Et si
a friend of mine once told me,
on s'est même dit,
she read that somewhere,
il te lit ça en côté.
you can be the only Bible somebody will read.
Ou cas c'est une Bible que on a pris.
One of the biggest problems we have with some Haitian parents,
Il y a un problème que nous avons avec parents haïtiens.
we don't walk the talk.
Nous pas marcher, je nous parler.
We're telling our kids to do something,
Nous disons mon yo pour faire bagay
and we do other things.
et nous font l'autre bagay.
We're not an example in the house.
Nous pas un exemple dans Kaila.
And as a matter of fact, a lot of kids confess that to me.
Pour me dire en effet grand pile petit monde qui confesse ça avec.
Yeah, some kids would go as far as saying, "My parents are one person in the church and another person in the house."
Il y a un petit monde qui va loin pour dire que parents nous sommes monde dans l'église et l'autre monde dans Kaila.
And honestly, unfortunately, it's true sometimes.
Honnêtement et malheureusement c'est vrai à peu de fois.
Another thing we could do,
On le bagay que nous qu'a fait.
glorify God in the house.
Glorifier bon Dieu dans Kaila.
Yeah, thanksgiving to God for what He's done.
Dis bon Dieu merci pour l'action de grâce pour ça que Dieu fait.
And help the kids understand. And they will say it too, help them understand what's happening is through God. God is doing it.
Et puis aider à comprendre que ça fait là c'est bon Dieu qui fait.
Even buying a house, for instance, in my case,
Mais exemple achetons un caille dans exemple pas maintenant.
when I say it's God that did it, it was God that did it.
Le désir bon Dieu t'es bon caille là et bon Dieu t'es fait.
Because we were not in well, the conditions were not met for us to have a house.
Nous pas gagner toute bagaille pour nous te gagner un caille.
And then we need to tell the kids that.
Nous devons dire mon Dieu ça.
And then help them understand.
Aider à comprendre ça.
how about teaching them how to defend their faith and stand up for their faith?
Et si nous te montrer comment pour défendre foi yo, pour camper devant l'autre monde qui prêche l'autre bagaille.
Action speaks louder than words.
Action parle plus fort que parole.
So live the gospel at the house.
Donc vive l'évangile à la caillou.
One thing you need to understand, it is easier for the kids
On bagaille de connaître que c'est plus facile pour tout monde non.
to reproduce, to go and do the bad things you do in the house than doing the good ones.
Pour reproduire bagaille mal ou faire dans caille que pour reproduire bagaille bien ou faire dans caille.
In other words, if as a Christian, if all we do in the house is good things, like things that reflect the Christian life,
Si ça n'a fait dans caille c'est bon bagaille qui reflète vie chrétienne non.
so we have a better chance of saving them.
Nous avons plus chance pour nous sauver tout monde yo.
Trust me, they will sing the same songs you sing in the house.
Quoi me soulever acheter même chez toi acheter la caille là.
If what you do is cursing all the time,
Si ou tout fait des bêtises chaque temps,
they'll learn that too.
il y a pas apprendre ça tout.
Bill Cosby once said something.
Acteur Bill Cosby dit on va
He said he was somewhere
il dit il était en côté,
and he saw a very young kid come out.
il on jeune petit monde sorti.
He won't say 3 words without cursing.
Petit monde n'a pas dit 3 mots sans pas dire une bêtise.
And he started asking himself questions.
Il commence à poser des questions.
Couple minutes later,
Quelques minutes après,
the mom comes out.
maman sorti.
For the kids, it's every 3 words.
Pour petit monde c'est chaque 3 mots dit
Mama
bêtise.
said every 2 words.
Pour maman c'est chaque 2 mots dit une bêtise.
And he said,
Et il dit
okay, I understand.
oh on comprend.
The kids only repeat what the mom does.
Petit monde a seulement répété ça maman a dit.
And that's fact.
Et ça c'est un fait.
Somebody said,
Gon monde qui dit
give me a kids
But
before 5 years old,
mon petit monde avant 5 ans.
and I'll turn that kid into whoever I want.
Et m'a tourné petit monde ça tout n'importe monde que vous voulez lier.
This is powerful.
Son baril qui puissant.
He knows what he's going to do
Il
with that.
connaît ça doit faire avec petit monde ça.
And that's, I guess that's what we kind of miss in the church.
Et c'est ça que nous ratons dans l'église là.
Now, I'm going to go fast because I really want this to be a debate.
Moi je vais aller vite parce que je veux ça tourner en débat.
And one of the things us as Haitian parents, we don't have in our blood
Il y a bagay que en parent haïtien en tant que parent haïtien nous pas dans ça nous.
we only learn to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Tonto Makut.
Yeah.
Dictator,
Yes.
thank you.
We only learn to be dictator.
That's all we know what
Yeah.
to be.
Et ça seulement nous connaît pour nous faire un dictateur.
Do this, do that, don't do
Fais
this,
ça,
don't
pas
do
faire
that.
ça, fais ça.
We don't have time to blend with the kids,
Nous pas de temps pour nous ensemble avec mélanger avec tout le monde.
understand them,
Pour comprendre yo,
play with them.
jouer avec yo.
We don't do this.
Nous pas faire ça.
And I'm gonna blame myself for this one.
Et m'a blâmer tellement pour ça tout.
How many Haitian parents do you know
Combien parents haïtiens qu'on connaît?
when their kids are playing sports
Les petits moun yo ap jouer sport.
haven't been in a game?
Ou yo al nan jouet yo, petits moun yo ap jouer.
How many do you know do that?
Combien parents on connaît? Ça.
One experience I had
Yo on expérience que m'gagne.
but I try my best to be, if they part of sports, I try my best to be there.
Moi fait le mieux que me capable depuis ap jouer sport pour aller supporter yo.
I was not, well, Junior didn't have that chance.
Junior pas gagner chance ça.
But for Sammy didn't have it either because Sammy didn't really play sport until very late.
Samuel pas gagner chance ça tout parce que il commençait à jouer sport très tard.
But Danny and Nate did.
Mais Daniel avec Nate fait ça.
One experience I've had with them,
Yo une expérience que m'gagne avec yo.
each time I go,
Chaque fois m'aller,
I see most of the parents there are the white folks.
moi ouais moun parents qui là c'est parents blancs yo.
You don't see the black ones.
Ou pas ouais moun noir yo.
Not much.
Parents pile là yo.
I love soccer.
Moi, j'aime le football haïtien.
Everybody who knows me knows.
Tout le monde connaît ça, que moi, j'aime le football.
And Danny was trying soccer.
Et Daniel t'a essayé de jouer football.
They love me so much,
Ils aiment tellement,
and they saw my knowledge of the game.
ils ont connaissance de jouer là.
They wanted me to coach the
Ils ont
team,
développé un entraîneur équipe là.
but I didn't have time.
Pas
I
de
didn't have
temps pour ça.
time. I
Pas
told
de
them I
temps.
couldn't
Je
do
pas
that.
capable.
Yeah, but it's to say,
C'est pour dire que
and I'm sure that made Danny proud.
c'est sûr que ça t'a fait Daniel fier.
And it's to say how, I don't know, that mentality we have as Haitians,
Pour dire mais mentalité que nous avons en tant qu'Haïtiens,
it's not our fault.
c'est pas faute non.
Brother Eve was saying yesterday,
Frère Yves t'a dit hier,
the way Haitian parents show love,
Jean parents haïtiens montrer l'amour,
it's through food.
c'est à manger.
They will cook for you.
Il y a plus de manger pour eux.
But it's, I don't know. It's not like that at my house, though. I gotta tell you that.
Bon, tout ça, il va comme ça va gagner moins.
Yeah. It's, and I think I said this here before.
Bon, c'est dit ça là déjà.
I grew up, never heard my mom or dad tell me they love me once.
Moi grandi, jamais entendu papa ou maman me dire même une fois.
I will change. I changed that with my mom.
D'échanger ça avec maman.
But my dad died.
Mais papa mourit.
I can't remember how old I was. Maybe 17,
Bah j'ai peut-être 17 ans,
16, 17.
16, 17 ans.
I never heard my dad tell me he loved me once.
Bah jamais entendu papa me dire même une fois.
Not once.
Pas même une fois.
But I know he loved me.
Même connaître même.
The problem, they won't tell you
Le
that.
problème non, yo pas tout ça.
And a lot of Haitian parents are like that.
Et en pile pas c'est comme ça.
When I started going to school,
Elle a commencé à l'école,
college,
dans l'université.
I took 4 years of psychology.
Je prends 4 ans en psychologie.
And then that's where I learned
Et là, ça me apprendre
how to teach my mom to tell me she loves me.
comment commencer maman pour dire que le même.
And you know how it started?
Vous comprenez ça
And that's
commencé?
one lesson I want you all to
C'est une
learn.
leçon que moi apprendre je dis.
I told her.
Moi dire ça, moi remel.
I didn't tell her to repeat that.
Pas dire de répéter,
But I told her how much I loved her.
mais moi te dire comment que moi remel.
And she started to tell me back how
Et
much
tu
she loved
commences
me.
à dire comment le remel.
Because it's not in their culture.
Parce que dans la culture,
You will never see, well, okay, let me take never back. But the older generation,
génération qui a âgé,
my generation and the one prior to mine,
génération pas avec génération avant pas.
it is so hard to find a dad
Il est difficile pour un papa
to tell their kids, I'm sorry.
pour dire excusez.
You will never find that.
Ou pas jamais moi ça.
As a matter of fact,
En effet,
I learned. I don't know if it's true. I never experienced that myself.
ma connaissance vrai même pas fait expérience ça.
They said my grandfather
Yo dit grand-papa
on my dad's side,
non bon papa moi.
if he fought,
S'il te font vent,
the kid needs to say sorry to him.
des petits moun yo te doit dire excusez. Yeah.
I didn't live it myself. It's to tell you that mentality,
C'est pour dire que mentalité hein,
you can't change it. It's
on
cultural.
pas qu'à changer le culturel.
Right? And I thank God I changed my mother.
Et me dit bon Dieu merci de changer maman.
And I changed my mother in many ways.
De changer maman dans pile façon.
I taught her how to tell me she loved me,
De enseigner comment pour dire que le même
and I brought her back to Christ.
et de mener tourner vers Jésus.
Let's go back to the kids, and then let's go to the kids.
En tourner sur Timonie puis n'a pas faire débat.
I wanted to make that transition.
Vivre la transition ça.
The best way to correct somebody,
Puis pour façon pour qu'à corriger un monde,
it's to do to them what you would like them to do to
c'est
you.
pour faire à eux-mêmes ce qu'on même pour faire pour.
That's what the Bible calls the golden rule.
C'est ça la Bible a révélé que règle d'or là.
And I am an example of that.
Et moi, c'est un exemple de ça.
a lot of time, if you're waiting for your parents,
A plus fois soit tan parents
to behave the way you want,
pour agir, j'en t'a voulu agir,
you'll never get that.
ou pas jamais le temps.
Never ever.
Jamais, jamais.
Can you imagine there is one thing Pastor Steve says very often?
Ou imaginez un bagage que Pasteur Steve dit souvent.
It's easy to leave the world,
Il est plus facile pour quitter le monde là.
but it's not easy for the world inside of you to leave.
Pour le monde qui n'en donne pour sortir.
Can you imagine somebody who's been doing something, who has been doing something for 30 years?
Ou quand imagine un monde qui est en train de faire bagage,
It becomes a habit.
les vies ont habitude.
And there's a saying in French
Et ils ont une parole en français
that says habit is a second nature.
qui dit que habitude sont deuxième nature.
Now, once you used to something,
Leur habitué font bagage,
it's not easy to live
il
in.
n'est pas facile pour quitter.
And imagine your parents
Imaginez les parents,
being like that for 30, 40,
ils
50
ont
years.
30 ans, 40 ans, 50 ans comme ça.
They're not going to change like that.
Il n'est pas facile pour changer.
But there is one thing you could do.
Il y a un bagage qu'on peut faire.
You could be a model to them, an
Ou
example.
ka un modèle pour yo, ka un exemple pour yo.
Just like I was to my mother.
Même j'aime te pour maman.
You can bring your parents back to God.
Ou ka amener parents yo tourner vers Jésus.
Your parents who, one person at church and another person at the house,
Parents qui ont monde nan kay la, ont monde dehors dans l'église là.
you can open their eyes.
Ou ka ouvrir yeux yo.
Not by disrespecting them,
Pas pour dérespecter yo,
but being the example yourself.
pour pas nous avoir un exemple ou même tête pas.
For instance,
Par exemple.
there is one thing, I don't know, my mom loved to do that.
Il y a un bagage que par contre pour qui raison maman te aimé faire ça.
Hiding inside and say she's not there.
Caché dans kay la, puis le moun côté pour dire pas là.
When I came to Christ,
L'aime devine Jésus,
I told her,
dis,
I can't do that for you.
bagage faire ça pour mon
That's
corps.
not going to happen.
Ça va faire ton corps.
And that's one of the lessons she learned from me.
C'est une leçon que l'apprend de moi.
I will not lie for you.
Pas pas mentir pour.
Because I was the example.
Moi c'était un exemple
And then she understood
et
it.
il te comprendre ça.
And that's one way you guys can do that
C'est
too.
une façon où même on peut faire ça.
Take over the spirituality in the house.
Prends contrôle spiritualité en kay la.
Your parents don't pray,
Parents yo pas prier,
you pray.
ou prier.
You don't need to tell them
Pas
anything.
besoin de dire
They
rien.
see you as the example.
You well comme un exemple.
One thing I'm proud of one of my kids, and I'm going to mention who that is,
Yon bagay que moi fier de ti moun moi yo, ma m'a dit qui est.
Danny.
Daniel.
If I was not reading my Bible at the house,
Si m'adap li Bible moi tout temps la kay la,
he would have been my model
il t'a un modèle pour moi.
every night
Chaque soir,
before he goes to bed.
avant la dormir.
I would walk, I would see the bathroom door, the light is on and the door is locked.
Moi ouais lumière toilette là, lumière et puis porte la fermée.
11:30,
À 11h30,
12,
à minuit,
1
à
a.m.
1h.
When you go in there,
Dans l'endroit,
you see Danny sitting
où
with
elle
his
chita
Bible open.
la Bible.
He would have been a model to me. And,
Il t'a un modèle pour moi, un exemple pour moi.
and that's what I'm saying. You as kids, you can be that example that you don't see in the house.
Et ça m'a dit que, ou même en tant que petit monde, ou quand un exemple dans le qu'on pas ouais,
And then you can bring your parents back to Christ if they were not there.
ou quand men parents yo by Jésus.
Now, to bring that to you,
Pour me tourner,
for the debate, to bring it to you guys,
pour ouvrir cadre là pour tout le monde.
let me give you a couple of history I learned, and then I want you to debate it.
Bon, bah, quelques histoires que m'apprendre et puis m't'a faire un débat avec ça.
There's a pastor that I know.
Gros pasteur que me connais,
He has a lot of kids.
il a pris petit monde.
He was sleeping at his house.
Il a dormi la caille.
Fact.
Ça sont faits,
It's not a joke. Fact.
ça sont réalité, vraie histoire.
As he was sleeping,
Pendant la dormi,
his phone rang.
téléphone lui sonne,
He picked it up.
il prend,
It's a hospital that's calling him.
l'hôpital là, il
And They say, we have your daughter here.
Il dit, il y a une petite fille là.
What are you talking about?
C'est
She's
passé.
living in her
Elle
room.
dormi dans la cabane.
No, she's here.
Non, il est là.
Well, that's not even the news.
Et bien, seulement une nouvelle ça.
Here is the news.
Mais nouvelle là.
She was giving birth,
Il a pas couché.
living in the same house as the dad. The
La
dad
vie
never knew
même
if
quand
she
elle
was
va pas jamais
pregnant.
te connaître que tu es enceinte.
A man of God.
Homme de Dieu.
Now talk to me.
Parle avec.
What do you think the problem is? What happened?
Son pensée pour le qui s'était passé.
He doesn't know his daughter very well.
Okay.
Il va prendre une petite fille bien.
But imagine a pregnancy. I don't know if her pregnancy was 7 months or 9 months or whatever. Even okay, let's say 7 months. Okay.
Il va connaître s'il était enceinte pour 9 mois ou bien 7 mois. On dit 7 mois.
7 months. They live in the same house.
Ils vivent dans la même caille.
The same house. Now talk to me.
Parle avec.
All right. But Sammy, you said he didn't know his daughter well. Do you want to say anything else? Do you want to go?
I say that because the fact that she was pregnant, it has to show, especially for 9 months. So 9 months went by and he never noticed that she looked pregnant at all.
Samuel dit pour 7 mois passés pour papa parent pas droit rien même.
He doesn't pay attention. He wasn't paying attention to her, probably.
Il va prêter attention.
Don't forget,
Pas oublier.
the mom is in the house too.
Maman là tout.
Well, it could be.
As a matter of fact, mom was home more than that.
Pour bien dire, maman était là plus que papa.
Right. Okay.
Sometimes parents see what they want to see, so I think.
Parfois que parents ouais ça ouvrir ouais.
And you just miss it, right?
Ou juste rater ça.
I want a very sincere debate here
D'ailleurs, un débat qui est sincère,
with all honesty.
avec toute honnêteté.
Even if your parent is here,
Même si parents là,
I still want the honesty.
voulez pour honnête.
Okay.
Well, I believe my parent is here.
Oh,
Que parents là,
yeah.
But, personally, I think it's all three of their faults.
personnellement, parce que tous les trois ont faute.
Because if we're being realistic, the daughter was probably hiding it.
Si nous voulons réel, nous croyons que petit fille a été caché ça.
But even considering that, the mom and dad didn't notice.
Même pour tout le temps de ça, même maman avec papa même moi ça même.
So I'm going to say it's the daughter's fault for hiding it and the parents for not noticing that she was hiding it.
Dis c'est faute petite là parce que t'es caché, et puis c'est faute parent tout parce que pas trouvé ça.
Why would the daughter feel like she would have to hide something that important though? Because I feel like there's something they have to have. There's something that they're doing wrong that she doesn't feel comfortable enough to bring up such topics towards them. Because having a kid is life changing.
Yeah, let her translate.
Pour qui ça que petite là t'es obligé cacher ça, ça montre qu'on bagage dans relation côté que pas aller ça parent pour te partager, on bagage comme ça.
It's like everybody has a hand in it and everybody's a guilty part of it. Like the parents, they're guilty in the fact that they don't communicate with their children.
Parents yo coupable parce que pas communiquer bien avec timon yo,
Or they don't make their children feel comfortable enough.
ou bien pas faire timon yo sentir confortable pour parler avec yo.
And then the daughter, she's at fault too, but it's more for the hiding of it than it is for like, I don't know.
Petite fille est coupable plus parce qu'il était caché ça.
Now let me ask you a question.
On pose une question.
You think? And I agree with you. Hiding it's a mistake.
Parce que je suis d'accord avec que cacher son erreur.
Do you think hiding it is worse than the act that caused her to be pregnant?
Vous pensez que cacher grossesse là est plus mal que action qui mène à grossesse là?
Because it was not through the Holy Spirit.
Parce que c'est pas cet esprit qui est enceinte.
Yeah? Eh? Chris, talk to me.
Pas la même non, Christine. Pourquoi?
So as the child here, I believe it's the daughter's fault.
En tant que petit monde qui parle là, il y a votre petit monde non, fille.
If I'm being blunt, if I had to like give like a percentage, I'm gonna say it's like 75% her fault.
Si nous avons mis le pourcentage de 75%, c'est petite fille qui est en faute.
And I'll split the 25 between the two parents.
How old is the daughter?
Wait, can you say?
How
I'm
old is the
séparé
daughter?
I can't remember, but
She
I
was
guess.
13. She was like 14, 15.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Wait, can you tell me again real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was around that age.
Sorry. So as a kid with both my parents here, I wanted to.
But first of all, both of your parents are here.
Both my parents are right next to me right now.
Okay, are you gonna be honest?
Completely, 100%.
Talk to us.
I wanted to continue the fact that everybody's at fault.
Vle continue me dire que tout le monde gen faute dans bail ça.
Because if you're just not realizing, getting the news that your daughter who's 14 is pregnant,
Si ou soudainement recevoir nouvelle que petit ou gen 14-15 ans enceinte,
even before she was doing the act,
même avant que tu fait action, hein,
that means that she's been sneaking out, she's probably doing something way before.
ça veut dire que tu es dans petit bagay à cachette depuis avant ça.
For how many days, weeks, months,
Combien de jours,
years,
combien de mois, combien d'années.
and you're telling me throughout all that time, you haven't noticed until you got this big bombshell.
On dit pour tout le temps ça, ou pas de connaître ça jusqu'à ce qu'on ait des nouvelles ça.
And considering that your kid's a minor, I feel like a parent, especially if you're your child is young, you should be responsible for making sure that your child is okay. Your child's 14, 13, all on these streets.
Si moun sa son mineur, yo, en tant que parent, on t'a supposé connaître, faire sûr que ti moun en sécurité tout
You know,
le
it's 10 o'clock. Where you know where your child is.
Li 10 heures, la nouvelle la dit, est-ce qu'on connaît que petit doué?
Now back to the child.
Tourner sous ti moun nan.
We already know from the jump that you should even me personally, I wouldn't even try sneaking out on my parents. I know my parents.
Moi, je connais personnellement,
Is that honesty
essayer
there?
faire un
Is that
cachette.
honesty there?
I'm being completely honest. I would not sneak out on my parents.
Sortir un cachette sous parent.
But at the same time, I feel like if you know your parents, especially if you know your parents' reputation,
Si on connaît réputation parent,
then I feel like that should be another blockage. And you're thinking, saying, is this right? What am I about to do? How
ça
would
t'a
it
supposé décourager pour faire bagay, pour
No.
la poser cette question. Est-ce que ça m'a fait un bon?
not just how is this going to affect me? It's going to affect you the most.
Non seulement qui ça va affecter, mais parce qu'elle va affecter au plus, mais comment elle va affecter les parents.
But how's it going to affect my entire family?
Toute femme comment elle va affecter.
Now, going back to parents, the last point I'll make before I pass it off.
Dernier point m'a dit avant de passer Nico.
How strict were the parents?
Est-ce que parents étaient stricts?
I'm telling you, it's a pastor, man. You know how strict they are.
Because I wanted to say and there's a phrase that we always use it: strict parents raise sneaky kids.
Yo dit que petit monde que parents yo strict, un parent qui strict, yo levé petit monde qui doit faire bagay en cachette.
Now, it's all right to be a bit strict in here, but if you overdo it, like the more strict you are, the more rebellious your kid's going to be in the future.
Well, and that's why I want this debate.
Et ça fait me débat ça.
J'espère même si je ne pas ouais parents là, mais regarder nous en ligne.
Yeah, even though if the parents are not here, but they are watching through YouTube.
A lot of them, they don't give the kids a chance to tell them how they feel.
En plus là, de pas bailler ti moun yo opportunité pour dire comment vous sentez yo.
Yeah, and let it out, guys.
My parents aren't here, so I'm gonna be super honest.
Your parents are not here.
They're not here.
All right, yo, you're free to speak. Praise the Lord.
I think 80% of the blame is on the parents.
Bon, c'est 80% blâme nan c'est sous parents.
And I have a few questions.
Moi, j'ai quelques questions.
Being that the pastor was a pastor, and my question is, was the wife working and working overtime?
No, she was not working overtime, I can tell you that.
Okay, does she work full-time job?
I'm not sure.
She was stay at home.
Yeah, I think she was a stay-at-home mom.
That's even worse.
Oh, yeah.
90%.
Yeah.
Because,
She was definitely a stay-at-home.
yeah, if she's a stay-at-home mom, what is she doing that she can't notice that her 14-year-old daughter's body has changed?
But I mean, I want to say that some kids, they hide. They're so small, their body, and they're able to hide anything with large clothes. So because they're so small, so they don't. They don't carry the pregnancy big.
Boss said, yeah. Boss c'est ça la situation. Et pas tout le monde qui gagne gros ventre.
Yes.
Oh yeah, but you should notice there's a pattern, a change of behavior at least.
Some kids, they can hide it so well.
Yeah. Well, but one thing I can tell you though, those parents are not the type who will tolerate their kids. They're not. I can testify for
To
them.
let them do whatever they want, not to tolerate them in that sense. To let them do whatever they want, like you're free to do.
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Because the pastor, as a pastor, you have to manage your home. That's the most important.
And I agree.
So I think
En tant que pasteur, vous supposez qu'à gérer caillou.
some blame has to go to the kid, but I think, especially 14-year-old, the parents have to take responsibility that they did not know
En pile, blâme de choses à cette petite là, mais en parent tout.
that their kid was pregnant.
Parce que pas connaît que petite yo était enceinte.
I'm gonna give you a similar story that happened.
Ben bon, l'autre histoire similaire qui
But here's
passe.
what I want to say before that.
Mais ça me plaît dire avant ça.
Oh, is there somebody that wants to speak? Okay.
Est-ce qu'on
Go ahead, brother.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone.
Sujet ça, on parle avec M. Darius. En fait, une grande question.
This topic is something that I've heard a lot. I have a question.
Pour Emmanuel.
For Brother
Qui
E.
arrive aux États-Unis ou bien?
Is something that happened in Haiti or in
Here in the United States.
Mon yo c'était haïtien ou bien?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Haitian.
Ok. Nous avons une histoire comme ça Haïti déjà.
I heard something similar in Haiti.
Il y a un pasteur qui était petit là, il y a un chauffeur qui connaît.
A pastor had her kid, and the kid had a driver to bring her to school.
Mais avant petit là gradué dans philo, il est enceinte.
Before she graduated high school, she became pregnant.
Et chauffeur ça c'était pour il pas seulement chauffeur qui était je reconnais en anglais un bodyguard.
That driver was also a bodyguard,
Petit monde enceinte.
and she became pregnant.
Now, was it for the bodyguard?
Yes.
Is it?
Who chauffeur?
Non, non, non.
Oh.
Much you know, word.
Dans ce genre de situation ça où
In this situation,
moun bay premier to c'est pas.
the person that I give the fault to is the parent.
Ça c'est avis pas.
That's my way of seeing it.
Parce que moi c'est principal problème dans sorti dans comment ou y a avec petit.
Because I believe the main problem is how you are with your children.
Parce que les parents qui vont c'est strict avec petit monde n'a qu'à faire petit monde comme si respecter.
Some parents they think it's because they're strict with their kids, that's why the kids would respect them.
Moi c'est ça qui est important c'est pour aller avec petit monde à l'aise avec dans tout sens et puis important pour faire l'éducation sexuelle.
Yes, you have to be cool, nice with your kids, relax with your kids, but most importantly, you have to do their sexual education.
Yeah, that's the part Haitians are not very good at.
Sans particulier, haïtien ou pas bon, on parle ça même.
On va supposer seulement que petit monde dire nous l'on devait pour aller à l'école.
You shouldn't have a kid and say you have to go to school,
Rentrer la caille ou attendre.
get home at this time,
L'on vient pour faire du bon.
when you come to do your homework.
Mais l'on à l'école là, mais gagne l'autre bagage au café tout.
When you go to the school, there are things that you can involve yourself in.
Mais qui précaution.
But
ce que
there,
j'ai fait,
these are the precautions that you can take
parce que bagage mal qui arrive l'on fait jamais bagage.
because there are bad things that can happen when you start doing these things.
Moi c'est ça qui est important, c'est à l'aise avec petit tout.
I-
L'éducation qui est importante dans la vie après.
Yeah, I think it's to be cool with your children and also educate them.
Yeah. I want to say something. Yeah. Before you and Bernarda. You know, I've seen two extremes.
Moi, ouais, les deux extrêmes.
Parents who are just parents,
Parents qui juste parents,
and then parents who are just friends and not parents.
parents qui amis mais pas parents.
There should be a line.
Supposé qu'on ligne,
Yeah, there should always be a balance.
supposé qu'on balance,
Yes.
équilibré.
There is a time to be a parent,
On le pour parents,
but there's a time to be friends.
on le pour amis.
And I think we need to understand that.
Et nous devons connaître ça.
Ben, Bernard, and then Pastor Steve.
All right. I wanted to piggyback off of what some of the things that Andrew said. And a lot of it's heavy on like education, specifically sex education. Now, I don't disagree with the whole, you have a kid, you need to make sure that they're well educated in school. However, if the parent doesn't educate the kid at home, then they're going to be a whole lot more educated about many other things in school. And I can say myself as a prime example. Every parent knows about the talk. However, being a student at least in the United States, I learned everything about that before like my parents even got a chance to talk to me about it. By the time it came time for my dad to talk to me about it, I looked at him and I said, I already know what all this is. And a lot of it's because a lot of other kids in school, they're very unfiltered. And there's some kids out there, not every kid is obedient. There's some of them that are saying, okay, no parents, no guardians, I'm free to do what I want, say what I want to other people's kids. And it's a scary thing because I can't say us because I'm not a parent, but most parents don't know what their kids are learning behind closed doors. Even worse, the internet. Their internet's completely free and there's no other filter on the internet. And if there is a filter, some parents put parental controls. I guarantee you, some kids will find a way around those parental controls to see what they want to see. And trust me, it seems hard, but there are many different ways that a kid can bypass whatever control those parents have. To wrap up, what I'm saying is that I feel like even before we are, well, it might lead to a question, but when do you think these parents should have these talks? Because there are some kids as young as kindergarten who know about these stuff, and you look at them like, how in God's green earth do you know about this?
Merci, Bill, Bernardine, and Pastor Steve.
14. No, 14 is too old to learn.
Yeah, but we'll come to that question though.
So
remind me if I forget.
My thoughts on that is, I know I've heard some people say it's the girl's fault. And I'm not saying obviously she's pregnant, so she was a part of it. But I think the first thing is, yes, one, sex ed. Because I took it in school, but what school told me and what my parents told me were two different things. Because school was more, it was because school was more like, you can do it, here's how to use a condom. Yeah. And then they show you like what all the diseases are.
The whole details.
Yeah, and then
did you even tell your parent?
When I took sex ed?
Yeah.
I didn't tell them until the middle of the class, only because it was just part of the curriculum. Yeah. So it was like whatever. Sorry, did I go too fast?
Yeah, but they were supposed to tell your parents.
Oh no, I mean, if they did, I didn't know. I told them while I was taking it, and that was really the end of it.
Maintenant, c'est comme ça que Léo a fait éducation sexuelle dans l'école, là, ça, parents disent avec ça, l'école là, dit, c'est des deux bagages différents. Parce que l'école là, ils disent, sous besoin de faire, vous pouvez utiliser capote.
Yeah. So I do think it's important for parents to have that conversation with their kids, because it's a different perspective and they actually know what's going on. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, at 14, she's a child. She's a teenager, but
14 ans, ils sont teenagers, mais ils sont petits monde.
scientifically, I think the brain doesn't develop until
Yeah.
you're like 25 or something like that. So it's natural for children, for teenagers even, to just be emotional. Like they just want to know stuff, and you don't know where she got her information from. Some websites will tell you that it just feels good.
Yeah, it's just naturel pour aller ça pour tout le monde curieux parce que quelqu'un côté a dit ou je sens tout bien.
Yeah, so she found another curious 14, 15-year-old, and it happened.
Et je n'ai pas qui curieux ensemble avec elle et puis ça vient nous révéler.
So maybe she should have known better, but also
Peut-être qu'il était supposé
she's
connaître
14.
14 ans.
And then the last thing is, I think it's, I don't know who this is, but I think raising your child out of making them fear you is very, very dangerous, because that girl decided that she'd rather risk her life and go through this pregnancy than to tell her parents, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Can you repeat?
Sorry, so I think there's a danger in raising your children out of fear. And even Christian fear, because also the mentality of like, I can go to hell, and all of these things, so now you're just trying to hide it.
Même dans peur pour chrétien ou spirituel pour dire mon pas dans l'enfer, ça fait que mon venir célébrer la plus.
Because pregnancy, I'm not very into it, but pregnancy has a lot of complications. She could have died. Like,
Yeah.
Grossesse n'a plus complications, elle était mourir.
Because we don't even know if she had any doctor visit.
Yeah, she didn't going to the hospital or anything. So at 14, she decided, I'd rather risk it till full term than tell my parents that I'm having this baby.
À 14 ans, il était risqué pour dire que la porter bébé jusqu'à terme au lieu de dire parents ça.
And I'm also assuming she brought herself to the hospital if the hospital called her parents.
Most likely the school, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay, the school? Okay. Yeah, so, yes, she was a part of it, but I think overall, the fact that she was so terrified that there was not a level where she just was like, okay, I have to tell my parents, or like, I need help. I think it kind of speaks to how she was raised a little bit. I just feel like I don't know, pregnancy is scary, so at 14 to decide you're not going to do or say anything, she was just terrified.
Yeah, Pastor Steve. And so was you co-op with Pastor Steve and Sammy too.
Bon,
well,
écoute parce que
I'm gonna be short because
Bernard a dit moitié l'ensemble d'actifs.
Bernard said half of the things that I was going to say.
Exactement, ça m'a dit.
Exactly what I was going to say.
14 ans,
At
son
the age
bébé.
of 14, she's a child. She's a baby.
Comme qui était parti, ça Bernard a parlé de lui déjà.
Bernard already spoke about it.
Mais avant de dire ça, m'a dit,
Before I said what I was going to say, I want to go back to Haiti.
En face la caille, moi,
across from my house,
un grand monde qui était habité en
there was
face.
an elderly person that lives there.
Il pas de petit.
She didn't have any kids.
Mais encore deux petites demoiselles, petite famille élevée.
She took 2 young girls and raised them up.
Elle a vu dans 28, 29 ans même.
When they reached 20, 28 years of age.
Ouais, comment ça?
You see that elderly person?
C'est pour la Tibonite.
She's from Latibonite.
Chaque provision vient, on voit être mesdames, elles font semaine, leur vie de provision à provision.
Every time, like, no vacances?
Provision, il faut y aller au provision à Thury.
Oh, every time, like, it's time to get grocery or get stuff for the house, she sends them to the countryside to go get stuff. And they would come back. When they come, I don't know how. But she pictures that. And she checks them to make sure that they came back the same way. That they're not violated, they did not enter, they did not do anything inappropriate. I don't know how.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
That
became a joke in the where we lived in the neighborhood. So every time we saw the young ladies, we would laugh. I'm sure this wouldn't have happened to this elderly person.
Yeah. Now,
I'll take an example.
Parce que bon Dieu, bon moi en famille, bon mon petit garçon, petite fille.
Because God has given me a daughter and a son.
Et pour un petit monde dans cas là, 14 ans, il enceinte, il a accouché par an pas connaît.
For a child to be in the house pregnant and give birth for you not to know.
Le petit monde dans période lycée moi pas cotex.
When the child has her period, I give the money for the pads.
Donc, déjà mon enceinte pas de règle.
If you're pregnant, there's no a period.
Okay.
Period.
Et madame lui-même,
my wife herself,
elle est toujours à checker.
She's always checking.
Mais pour qu'ils ont toujours à checker.
This is the reason why she's always checking.
Et au cas où un petit monde n'a pas jamais de période, mais c'est malade qui malade.
You may see that they never have the period, but they're sick.
Et l'on regarde 1 mois, 2 mois, 5 mois, 6 mois, 7 mois, tu vois, ils vont mourir dans le monde.
2 months, 8 months, 9 months, they don't have a period, they could have died.
Donc, même quoi ça, c'est négligence par
I think it's negligence of the parents.
Et il y a des gens qui baillent petit monde dans 20%,
Some people give
25%
20%,
de culpabilité.
Of guilt.
Moi-même, je ne même pas 10%, même parce que son petit monde à 14, 15, 16 ans, son petit monde lui.
I don't even give her 10% of guilt
Donc,
because
il
she's a
besoin
child.
d'attention par an,
She needs the attention of the
surveillance
parents.
par an.
The parents who are watchful.
Donc, moi-même, au moins 90%.
I think 90%, 95% is of the parents' fault. That's what I
Amen.
think.
Amen. Honnêtement, l'endap dit histoire.
When I was telling the story,
Pas de songer l'âge là.
I didn't remember the age.
Même plus facile.
It was around that age, yeah.
Pas de songer.
Oh, Sam.
Okay, so upon listening to everyone else, I've had a change of heart. I'm gonna switch up my percentages a little bit. I do believe she's responsible to some extent. Because there's such a thing as like personal accountability. But I'm gonna blame the parents for most of it. Mainly because of the root cause of the problem. I believe they didn't raise her to make good choices. I'm being blunt here. Because no. That's why I'm blaming the parents. Because let's rewind. Even before she got pregnant, before the guy before he had sex with her, he was probably talking to her for like a reasonable amount of time. I would say. But like the daughter never felt comfortable enough to talk to her parents about any of this. So because of this, I'm gonna blame the parents.
Talking to you, would you feel comfortable enough to go talk to your dad?
Can I just
If the girl was talking to you for months, would you feel comfortable enough to walk up to your dad and be like, hey dad, I've been talking to this girl,
Okay, well,
no,
okay.
time you're 14.
Now, this person wants to put me on blast. And I'm gonna say no, mom was not. Mainly because, well,
Okay, your dad's not even okay.
I didn't want to cut it. But since we've come here, I would say it's a similar problem that the girl has. Because I do know of people who would go to their parents for something like this. We can't sit here and pretend like that dynamic doesn't exist. I know it does exist. There are kids who go to their parents for stuff like this.
Can't blame her for the fact that she didn't have that type of relationship.
No, I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming the parents for not creating that type of dynamic. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, it could be a personality problem because I know at least one of my kids came to me very early and told me things like that. Very early age.
De personnalité de Timon, parce que il y a un Timon maintenant l'âge qui est jeune, il était parlé à lui concernant
10, 11 years old.
10, 11 ans. Yeah, I was going to say, like,
M'devle di,
we're saying a lot about what happened.
nou di an pil sou sak pase ya.
Anything that happened like 20 plus years ago,
Y a somebody ki gen plus ke 20 ans de vie.
before sex ed was a thing.
Avant tout
In
affaire
school.
éducation sexuelle,
And
ta
also,
pale
one
à la
question.
chambre.
You said, was she an only child?
No,
No.
she was probably part of like 6.
Yeah.
So you're
5
telling me
and
none of
6,
the
yeah.
brothers and sisters noticed?
Nobody noticed. I don't know if they do.
No, and that's why I'm going to talk about the part of it about the period thing.
Et c'est peut-être ça m'bral parler de affaire en croissance là.
You have 4 girls having periods in the house.
Ou gen 4 filles nan ka la ki gen période yo.
I can fake good periods for my period.
Nou ka propose gen doit se période lou et puis propose se femme.
I can guarantee you all the sisters knew.
So I can't say that. But the other thing is,
La ka la moun konnen.
brother, you mentioned something.
Frère Emmanuel di bagay.
Like, I'm going to take Lude and myself as an example.
Ma pran Lude avem kom exemple.
Her relationship with my mom is completely different from my relationship with my mom. We have the
Relasyon
same
se
mom.
Lude gen maman se pa li gen avem maman.
She talks to her mom all the time.
Li pa la maman tout temps.
But me,
Moi-même,
on the other hand, is different.
moi-même son l'autre bagay.
So that, my mom is my mom,
Maman
but
se
Lude's
maman.
connection with my mom is different.
Yeah, men koneksyon Lude gen maman nan diferent ke sa fam nan.
That parent could have been an open parent,
Parent sa te gen un parent ki ouver.
but that child does not, like, in herself, she doesn't think that,
Men petit sa nan li men,
doesn't feel that I'm going to be well received.
li pa pense ke yo pal recevoir bien.
So that's in the mind.
Sa se nan l'esprit li.
And that child, her parents love her.
Pi petit sa, parent li yo remen an pil.
She's named after her dad.
E non papa li pote.
She's loved. She's smart. They
Yo
know
vreman
that.
remen, el intelligent an pil.
So I think the fear
M'pense peur
that she had in herself
ke l te gen,
stopped her from sharing with her parents.
se sa bloke pou l pa pataje sa avek parent.
And I know the other issue is how did she get to that level? I don't know how she
Ouais,
became
parce que
pregnant.
l'autre issue, c'est comment le faire arriver là, m'pa konnen sa.
But that parent, I don't think the parents, like Brother E said, they were the strict people, but they're not like, get away from it.
Yeah, parent sa se pa an te strict, men pa pa an kap kouy de timon yo.
That's like, I just own you because you got pregnant.
Yeah,
They're
parce
not
que
like
pou
that.
konon pa petit mwen ankor ba
So it could have been a personal thing for her at 14.
Li te gen do a son problem personel pou li a 14 ans.
I mean, a kid, there's still a piece of gum. They hide that. Can you imagine being
Yeah, right.
pregnant?
Yeah, well, timon ap kache on chiclet, mba bezen do pou
So it's easy for her.
proses la, so li pa difficile pou li.
There's a comment online.
Gon komente online.
What if the girl was, I think we know that's not the case, what you just said, but they said it. What if the girl was abused and afraid to tell her parents because they don't know how to communicate with their kids? Some parents beat their kids first and they ask questions later. That's Haitians. And that's Haitians.
Yeah, we do that. Alors, sa nan pou y apè nan a di gen parent ki fin bat si moun yo anvan apre sa ou pose kesyon apre. Now, I have a similar story I wanted to share. This time it happens to boys. Certainly, it's not pregnancy. Now, I guess the bottom line here is that connection between parents and kids that we need to have. It is true that they may have different personalities. You just heard Sammy, he wouldn't be comfortable talking to me about that. Yeah, and some of my kids do. It really can be a personal problem. Like the person could be a very reserved person. That happens. Yeah. That story, the one I'm about to tell you, it's a pastor again. Problem pour pasteur. It was after midnight, but it was awake in his office working on something. The house phone rang. He picked up. A police officer on the line. And then the officer told him, I have your kids.
Policier a dit m'gen ti moun yo,
2 boys.
2 garçons.
And the pastor was like, what are you talking about?
Pasteur a dit sorti là.
My kids are sleeping in the room.
Ti moun yo dormi dans chambre là.
And the officer told him, why don't you go check?
Policier a dit comme ça, al checker pour.
And the pastor said, I'll be back.
Il dit m'a tourné.
La lunch on you.
Goes to the room.
Chercher.
Look around.
Relay tout côté dans la gala.
Call all over the house.
Ti moun yo wala.
No kids.
And then he went back to the phone.
Il tourné dans téléphone là.
And then the key station created that.
Il dit which station called me? Which police station?
Officier a dit nous tel côté vient nous.
No, the police officer said I'm here. Come meet us.
Now, listen to this.
Tandis ça.
When he went to the station,
Il est allé dans la station commissariat.
he was shocked.
Il était saisi.
And then, but he wanted to have some time with the kids, calling them aside.
Il voulait parler avec ti moun yo sous côté.
Asking what
Il
happened.
dit ça passé.
You know what they told him?
Vous comprenez dit?
You always have kids. You always have time for the kids at the church.
Ou toujours gen temps pour ti moun yo l'église là.
You never had time for
Ou
us.
pas jamais gen temps pour moi.
You don't know what's going on in our mind.
Ou pas contre ça passe dans l'esprit non.
Do you know the pastor stepped down?
Ou connaît pasteur a été obligé de descendre, il pas de pasteur pour retirer tête en tant que pasteur.
Because he didn't know how to deal with this.
Parce que pas continuer pour gérer ça.
Now, and again, the question is back to you.
Question tourne à vous-même.
What do you think that could be?
Qui sont pensés de carrière?
Why things like that happen?
Pour qui ça paraît ça arriver?
Especially to pastors, us men of God.
Et spécialement pasteur, homme de Dieu.
Can I try to answer this?
Yeah. And those are true stories, okay?
Ça c'est une histoire qui est vraie, attendez.
So what I wanted to say was,
Ça me dit c'est
I feel like, and we say it all the time, especially for pastors, I feel like the number one rule should be that, like, church or whatever you're leading, it should start at home.
Spécialement pour pasteur, t'as dit que tout soit mené, tout soit géré, il commence la caille, leadership a commencé la caille.
And it's one of the reasons why I praise God that, like, I know my father was never like that. But I feel like for a lot other, and I mean, when we see cases like this in real life too. I'd say that the kids, they felt like they're not being paid attention to, or even if they tried to, you know, bring something up to their parents, they probably felt like they're going to get compared to the other kids at church.
Nous en pile petit monde yo senti yo comme ça, yo pas prêter attention à eux-mêmes et puis si yo t'a poto bagay bay parents yo comparer avec l'autre petit monde l'église.
And as Haitian kids, I can probably say, especially for myself, that's one thing I do not like from anybody. I don't like being compared to anybody.
C'est un petit monde haïtien, pas même pour comparer avec personne.
Oh, let me tell you, that last example, they're not Haitians.
Oh, they're not?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just speak for like the nation that I know, like the people that I know. Because I know for like speaking as a Haitian kids, we do not like to be compared to other people. And especially if you, I feel like if you do that, not only is that going to hurt the kids' self-esteem.
Non seulement que la gâter ou bien déranger estime de soi ti moun nan.
In many cases, it can probably destroy a child's relationship with the other peers, with his or her peers within the church. That itself can be a whole different problem.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay, so Ben and I are pastor's kids.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Thank you for the announcement.
No, just so people are aware. I think we're blessed to say that we have a good relationship with our dad. But I do think the dynamic is a little bit different. Because we can't always come first every single day. Because, there are times we're having a conversation and the phone rings.
Il y a que nous avons une conversation puis le téléphone a sonné.
And you have to pick up the phone because you don't know what it is, or maybe you do know what it is, and so you have to pick up the phone.
Faut pas se prendre le téléphone là parce que par contre qui est après là ou bien connaît qui monte après là.
Or if we're watching a movie as a family.
Si nous regardons un film en famille.
There's places to go.
Bon côté pour aller.
There are prayers to make.
Bon prière pour faire.
You know, house visits, like it's not.
Pour aller visiter caille, pour aller visiter monde.
So it's hard because the reality is that it's not always about you.
C'est difficile, mais la réalité, il faut connaître que c'est pas toujours de vous-même.
And I think some people forget. A lot of people, they come to church and then they go home and then they don't have to worry about it again until next Sunday or Wednesday or Friday.
Un peu monde oublié que je pense que juste une église et puis on va penser avec situation de réalité jusqu'à le dimanche.
We joke around in our house and we say we don't go home from it. It's our lives.
Non, moi avec Emmanuel, avec famille nous rire de ça parce que ça c'est la vie, nous pas rien pour nous quitter l'église là et pour nous aller c'est la caille nous même et l'église là même.
So I remember at a very young age, my mom put her foot down and she said, "This day and this day you have to be in the house."
Nous songe qu'on maman était obligée de mettre la tête pour dire que jour ça on obligé la caille.
Because it's not that it's his fault. You get busy. You have work, you have the house, and then you have the church.
Et pas faute li parce que la vient occupé ou qui travaille ou l'église ou qui caille.
And so like Saturdays, Ben-Hur and I, we would stay with our dad. If that meant he was going to the church, the three of us was going to the church.
Ça veut dire samedi, moi avec Benoît nous avec papa non parce que même si il pour l'église là, moi avec Benoît nous aller à l'église.
Depending on the situation.
Dépend de la situation.
If he was going to somebody's house,
si va ka au monde,
the three of us were going to somebody's house.
Nous trois tout va ka monde là.
But and I think as a kid you're kind of like, please let me stay home.
Yeah.
En tant que petit monde toujours dit temps pour faire moi quitter moi de la.
But as an adult, you have to realize like he had to find a way to be like, he had to be the pastor.
En tant qu'adulte, vous réalisez que il doit occuper place li.
But I'm also a father.
Mais il était un papa tout.
And I can't be a pastor if I'm not a good father.
Et pas un pasteur c'est pas un bon papa.
And so I think and obviously there's a lot more that goes into it, but when you live in a pastor's home, it's very easy to feel like I constantly have to take the back seat because there's something going on.
Évidemment, lorsqu'on vit en tant que petit pasteur ou bien vivre comme un pasteur, ou obligé reculer dans pile bagaille qu'on peut pas joindre.
And also like Ben-Hur said, when you're the pastor's kid, it's like you're not allowed to be a kid sometimes.
Je même la Ben dit en tant que petit pasteur, c'est comme si vous êtes un grand monde de maturité.
And you're not the only one. You're not the only one making mistakes. But you're going to be the example to everybody else as to why you shouldn't make it.
On suppose un exemple pour monde pour pas faire erreur.
Alors me sorti dans ça Bernadette dit même si tout l'autre petit monde font bagaille, il pas problème mais laissez ou petit pasteur faire loin travail.
Even if other kids do something, there's nothing wrong about it, but when it's the kids, the pastor's kids, then something is wrong.
Because everybody's looking at you. And sometimes you feel like your kid isn't here. But you're so focused on me. Or you, and I don't know how it's for Ben-Hur, but sometimes if somebody has a kid that's not within church or within ministry or whatever it is, you become that person's new kid just because it's like, oh my gosh, you're so this, you're so that. And so now you're a kid to multiple people. And so you're carrying the weight of disappointment from your parents. But also 150 other people. And you don't even know all of them. And then when friendships within church, when you're a pastor's kid, even with people your age, is also a different dynamic.
Amitié dans l'église pendant que vous êtes petit pasteur, c'est difficile.
Sometimes your issues are overlooked because somebody else is going through something, but you know, you're fine because your parents are the pastor, so you're fine. You know what I mean? We have to focus on this kid.
Parfois, une église, j'ai problème à passer parce que Dieu dit, ok, vous êtes petit pasteur, tout le monde est ok pour vous.
And even your friends, sometimes it's like oh wow, like you're so, like your life is so good, you're so this, you're so that. So there's even a weird dynamic with friends where it's like you don't get that person to depend on in church because of the belief that like you're fine.
Moun kouvre les amis avec eux, y a mené l'esprit que tout bagay, ok pour même ou pas de problème, ça va le problème ça, donc yo négligé.
And if your friends are doing something or going out, because again, we're all kids, you know what I mean? If your friends are going out, you might feel the need like, I have to sneak out and do this, or I have to do something. Not that we ever did. Because you don't get that feeling of, I'm also just a kid. And one thing that I've realized is sometimes, probably because I'm guilty of it, sometimes kids act out to get the parents' attention. Like if you're not going to pay attention to me, I'll put you in a position where you have no choice to. And I'm not saying that that's what those two kids did. But like you said, the father had to step down from being a pastor to take care of the kids. And he didn't do that before. You know, there was nothing there to say, oh, I have to take some time to be with the kids. So now he has no choice. So before we judge the dad as like you're a bad dad or a bad mom, or you judge the kids as like, you know, you're a bad kid, it's a completely different dynamic. And also, I don't know how involved, the last thing I'm going to say is I don't know how involved the mom was with the children. I think my mom had to take a huge step up in certain times. If somebody was going through something and my dad just wasn't able to be at the house every day after work or something. In taking us out, planning family dinners where it's like you're gonna be here, movie nights, you know, taking us to friends' house. Like she had to step up in certain dynamics to make us feel like it's okay that it's not about you right now because I'm still here.
Même si que la pas centré sous, OK parce que moi-même moi là m'a ka jouer ça m'a ka aider dans ça.
And so I think that's where the ministry of a pastor's wife comes in within the household.
Et là senti que ministère madame mon pasteur vini.
Because she held my dad accountable of like, you will, you know, this is your house, so we're going to do this. And then when you can't, I'll step up. And that was all I was going to say.
Now, I want to say, before you go to that, you know, one thing I want to say, because I see the debate won't stop. I gotta say this. One of the things that doesn't happen enough in the family home, I mean the Haitian home. We don't take time for our family. For instance, you know, sometimes there is a balance at in the home where the pastor or the wife is the more spiritual. But there is one at least that's there, just like Bernardo was saying, to take care more of the kids. At my house, it's difficult. I'm heavily involved. My wife is worse than me. If I don't keep an eye out for the family, well, she won't do it. Well, she's always available for her kids, though. Like, she's the one always go drop them at work, go pick them up, school, work. She's always there. But when it comes to spiritual things, you cannot stop my wife. She wants to be in every service, everything that's going on, and even things that, well, she got to go visit people, she got to call people. And she's always on her phone. Trust me, it's spiritual things that she's taking care of. A gift she's buying for that sister, gift she's buying for that sister. Things that she's sending to Haiti. It's not she's on her phone, but it's never personal. Now, she's way more involved than me when it comes to that. So the balance is very important. Now, what I was going to say, we need to take time to go out as a family. Vacation.
Vacances.
Family vacation.
Vacances à famille.
At least once a year.
Au moins une fois par année.
It is important.
L'important.
It feels so good being with your kids. And I'm really telling you guys. Well, some people, for some reason, it's like they spend their money in everything else. But not taking time with the family. Honestly, I feel like one vacation a year is not enough. For the family, it's not enough. And that's one of my most important advice tonight. Go out as a family.
Sorti en tant que famille.
Spend time as a family.
Passer temps en famille.
Very good.
Online question. I don't know if anybody out there.
Online question.
Online. Okay. How do church leaders with youth at home learn how to balance when to be a parent and when it's time to be a youth leader for your kids?
This is a tough one.
Repeat that.
Oh, sorry. How do church leaders?
Comment que leader dans l'église
with youth at home
qui gen jeune moun la kayo
learn how to balance when to be a parent
comment pour balancer équilibrer le au parent
and when it's time to be a youth leader for your kid
ou bien comment pour on moun k'ap diriger jeunesse dans la kayo.
Yeah. Now one thing, the number one rule at my house,
règle numéro 1 la kayo moi,
if it's against the Bible, you know I can't do it. That's number one rule.
C'est règle numéro 1.
I'm heavily involved in church, always preparing a sermon, a Bible study.
Moi, réellement actif dans l'église, toujours préparer message ou bien préparer étude biblique.
And I can't miss a service.
Even
if I'm not the one teaching, but I have to be in the Bible study. And that's the habit I would love for the kids to have. So I'm setting the example. Now, one thing I've been doing it with my oldest son. But now the mentality is what I want to do, and we're doing that, is to do it with all my kids. One-on-one.
One-on-one. Un à un.
And it's very important.
C'est vraiment important.
There are things you can get out of the kid talking to them one-on-one. If they in group, you won't get it.
Si en groupe, il va partager.
And that's even true even in evangelization.
Même dans l'évangélisation.
If you see a group of people you're talking to them, it won't have the same effect as if you pull one aside. And we need to learn how to do this. And the reason why I started that, I felt like, okay, as a church leader, I seem to have more time for the church than for my kids. And I read that book about the story I just told you. And I'm like, okay, I need to sit down with my kids. Like I said, it's been 25 years, it's going to be 25 years soon, but I'm still learning.
Mon papa, même toujours apprendre.
Sometimes the idea comes from Junior himself.
Parfois, l'idée c'est Junior qui l'amène.
They're telling me, Dad, you should do this instead of that.
Il dit, papa, vous devez faire ça au lieu de ça.
Well, he's telling me that so I don't repeat the mistakes I did with them with his brothers. So, and I guess that's one of the problems as leaders, especially church leaders we have. We don't listen to other people. Once we made up our minds, nothing can change it.
I heard Pastor Gregory said something. This is one of the biggest mistake or faults that someone may have. Is when you don't listen. When you don't listen, you don't correct.
And that is so true.
That is vrai.
Right? And I encourage every church leader, every parent, take the time to understand your kids, sit down with them, understand what they're going through, educate them at every level, economic, spiritual, everything. Everything. Now listen, there was a time I was a full-time parent, a full-time student, full-time church. Can you imagine this? Being all that. And that's why sometimes I don't understand when people are telling me they don't have time for church. I was full-time all these things.
Me too, Pastor Simpson.
Can you imagine? And then, someone to
say, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't have time to come to church.
You know, I'm being humble, I don't bring my life. But it all depends on how serious you take God.
Yeah,
right? And again, to go back to the question, it's talk to your kids. You should have more time for your kids than you do for the church. Because the church starts at home. And then help your kids understand the reason why you're so involved in church as well. But sometimes they become so used to not having you around, then you not around is not a problem anymore. Yeah, but that's not good though. Yeah, because you need to be available for them. And some people, they work so much, they don't see the kids. Doubles, you know, from that work to that work, leaving the house at 6 a.m. and coming at almost midnight, coming back. And then the kids don't see it. And you know, they say, but I'm doing this for the kids. But you're destroying their lives. That's what you're doing. Bam.
Actually, no.
Mon boss.
God bless you. I've been listening to everything that you guys have been saying since the beginning. I'm thinking of my Haitian parents. I act like a Haitian parent. Sometimes I act like another nation, like an American parent. Everything I heard from the beginning, I said for myself, I was not raised with my mom. I was raised by my grandma.
avec tonton.
With my uncles.
M'a dit yo levé mal.
I didn't say they raised me wrong.
Mais ou toujours senti comment qu'on bagaille, ou pas gen maman, ou pas gen papa.
You still feel like you're missing something because you don't have your mom and your dad with you.
Moi-même, les m'a grandi.
As for me, when I was growing up, I always said I have to be present for my children. The first rule is I have to be there for my children. I have to make sure my children get everything that I did not get. Because my sexual education was not done. But in my mind, I said I have to do this for my kids. On paye un système. When growing up in your culture as Asian people, they don't want you to be talk to boys. Don't play with boys. They don't tell you why you shouldn't play with boys. When I was growing up, I said thank you to God. I had a cousin. I had 2 uncles. Even though they were doing bad things out there, they said, don't look after me because what I'm doing, do not do it. And in my head, and I said, oh, somebody else could do the same thing that my uncles are doing out there to me, so that put the fear in me. When I was raising my children, and I had to tell them straightforward. I didn't say I didn't spank them. I spanked them. Sometimes when after spanking them, I realized that I shouldn't have done that. Sometimes when you're spanking, you have to say, do I have the Spirit of God in me? You have to say, is it me? The enemy wants you to lose that child because he wants you to put you in trouble that you lose the child. The Holy Spirit can help you change your behavior the way that you are with them. Let me say something from the beginning. 14 years old, I didn't say anything. For me, I give 100% fault to the parent. I have a 14-year-old. You see me? My kids have asked me if I were in the army. Even though I go to sleep, I'm not sleeping. I tell them that. I know everything that's happening. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to the room. I'm not just watch over. I'm going to go in. I'm going to touch the bed. Fake pillows. Because I've heard people fix the bed. You think it's a body on the bed?
Says, oh yeah.
That child is out. I'm going to go in. I'm going to touch. Sometimes I go in. And they say, what are you doing? I said, the blood of Jesus. I go in. Bernarda. Say, Mommy, are you watching over me? Why should I be watching you? I say, I can't watch you. God is watching you. Yes, I'm watching. Yes, she says, Mom, I'm not going to go through the window. You can have a child that's 14. She's pregnant. You're in the house. And the father's a pastor. He may be going in and out, but the mother's inside. You don't see the change in your child? You're at fault. Furthermore, kids can get pregnant at 9. You can't say that since a kid hit puberty, you should do this sexual ed for them. When Bernard was that age, I didn't talk to her. I said to her father, I said, you're a guy. You have to explain what men can do. Even if you had 6 kids, you have to control them in the house.
I agree.
100% the parent.
Yeah, honestly, I agree, man. The age, I didn't know the age, but when you told me the age, I agree 100%. Both go to the parents.
When you're the child's friend, you're not beating them up. You say, let's go to church. Go to school. Sometimes, I mean, the kid is living in the world. As if you said, bring me to the movie theater, he said, movie theater is not for you. You can bring them in the movie theater. You can teach them the movie that they should not be watching. You cannot say that you're in the house and you're not playing with the child. I'm not saying that I do the job 100%. As a man, as a human being, I can say 10% of the work I did. Kids don't require too much. At my house, when I was raising the kids, I told my husband, today's Saturday, even if you have $10, go sit at McDonald's with them. Talk to them. Talk to them. Explain things to them. If they have to go out, I said, let's put a little bit of money aside to take them to the movies. Sometimes we say we have a lot of kids. I can understand that. You may not be able to do it every month. If I'm working, I'm going to put $20 here and there. In 2 months, I'm going to go out with all of them. You don't have to have a lot of money. Yeah. What you do, it remains with them. You say, don't do that, they will know why not to do it. You said not to touch the fire. You have to tell them what happened. That's what I want to do.
Time is over. Time is over. Time is really over.
We had somebody who was waiting the whole time. Could we just one person?
Okay, all right. Let's do this.
Also, after Christy, you said the question that I asked before. You're gonna.
Yes, thank you very much. You will remind me, and then I'll answer. Yes.
It was the story with the pastor and the 2 boys.
Yeah. Histoire avec un pasteur avec 2 petits garçons.
It doesn't even have to be a pastor's kid.
It's
anybody whose parents are deep into the ministry.
Yeah. C'est une histoire pour tout le monde qui font le ministère avec petit.
It's the weight of expectations.
C'est poids attente.
Because the issue that I have with my mom,
problème
and the issue that my sisters have with our mom,
que maman
our mom, like, she's on a set path. She's like, as soon as I turned old enough to take care of myself, she sat me down and said, like, my life at this point, you're old enough to take care of yourself. My life at this point is in God's hand. She was like, I'm not living for me. I'm living for God now. Once you see like such like dedication to something, you sometimes have to sit down and wonder, like, do you have that much dedication that she has to what you're doing, what she's doing?
Dédication que maman que gagne pour travail à faire. Dévouement y a opposé de question. Est-ce que moi-même j'ai même dévouement tout pour avec ma fait?
Like another thing, she how do I explain it about the set, like she'll be like every time she's like, oh, look at the future pastor. That's what she'll say. Like she'll like, oh, look at the future pastor, or look at the future woman of God. That's what she'll say to me and my siblings.
So looking at you, you are the future pastor she's talking about.
That's what she's talking about.
All right.
And it's not that. It's not that I don't want what she's like dreaming of. It's like I feel like I have no other paths to take because that's the path that she set. So sometimes I'll catch myself doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing just because I want to say like I don't want to take this path that she is set for me, because I feel like it's like the decision is not in my hand. It's
like resentment kind of.
Like let's say like I go downstairs and be like, hey, I want to have eggs for breakfast, or I want to eat like a peanut butter bread. I don't have that choice. It's like I'm going downstairs. There's my on the table.
That's what you're gonna eat, brother. I hear you, man.
And like, a lot of the things is that's how it is for pastors' kids or anybody whose parents are deep in ministry.
Yeah, true.
It's like you feel like you have no other directions to take, because from a young age, whatever legacy that your parents are leaving behind, that's the legacy that everybody else expects you to follow.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, this is tough. Ben, now before your question, let me say this. Time is really up. That sexual education thing.
Éducation sexuelle, pas éducation sexuelle ça.
That's tough for Haitians.
Ça sont gros bagaille dur pour Haïtiens.
Let me tell you this. I'm talking about the older generation.
Ma parler pour génération qui est ancien.
Listen, you cannot give what you don't have.
Ou pas capable so pas gagner.
Now, remember I was telling you how my parents never told me how they love me? Do you know I had to work a lot to be able to tell my kids I love them? Because it was not in me. This is very important things. It was not in me. So, asking, I'm going to be honest here. I don't remember sitting down with my kids doing their sexual education. I don't know if my wife did. And seriously.
Sammy was like, nah.
And and I want to say this for all the kids here. A lot of our parents, they were not raised in a home as a family. That's my example. I taught myself how to be a father. I didn't even know what a father was. Now, it's like you're learning on the job. And that's not easy. A lot of times we're blaming their parents, but we don't understand. And that stuff, that sexual education thing, I'm telling you, parents, you should do it. Every parent, we should do that. And we need to learn how to do it. As they say, if we don't do it, someone else will do it for us. And that will be disaster. Alright, so let's learn how to do it and do it. That's very important. Ben, what was that question again?
So the question I had before was, what age do you think is the appropriate age to talk to your kid? Especially, I'll be specific. This generation of kids, what do you think the appropriate age is to talk to them about sexual education?
Before the school does.
Once you hit 7th grade, bro.
It's definitely before the school does.
But I think, I've heard somewhere. It's not putting an age to it. I mean, of course, it's before puberty.
Yeah, mais c'est avant puberté.
But you have to follow the kid to see what they're. Some of the things, you see how they are. Kids develop different ways.
Yeah, c'est pour garder si moun nan pour comment la développer parce que tout pas développer même genre.
You can have two kids, like even twins in the house.
Ou quand même gen ma ça nan cas là.
one is more alert than the other. So as parents, you study your kids, you know your kids, and you know like, oh, she should know this. So I think putting an age to it is limiting because I don't think like 7th grade is... Yeah, so like right now kids are doing a lot of things. No, they're doing a lot of things sexually. There's no grade. Because boys and boys are hooking up. Girls are hooking up. So it's like elementary level. So it's important to know your kids and start talking to them, and you know, to the level that they can understand. I don't know what that is, but talk to them.
Well, and seriously, I believe it's before the school. You should start before the school.
Yeah.
Before the school. Wait, pass vite fini pour nous pas parler.
Sexual education is how I used to do it. When I came to Boston with Bernarda, I heard how they would sexually abuse little girls, and I said, and I have to leave, so I would leave her with my grandma. She has my cousins and my little brother with her. Her private part, I would call it cuckoo. And I would say, when your mommy's not here and somebody wants to touch you, tell me. I said, anyone. You have to tell me. I did the same thing for Ben-Hur. I said, when you go to the bathroom and the teacher's bringing you, and if they enter, say, no, you can get out. Tell them to stay outside behind the door. When you're done, they open the knock on the door and they will come in. And they took what I said. And he goes to the doctors.
Oh, it wasn't like Emmanuel
when they were about to check his private part, when the doctor was about to bring down his pants, he said, no, pas mine. The doctor looked at me. And I said to the doctor, I don't want people to touch him. And she's looking at me. I said, I'm going to bring his pants down.
Yeah, no go on. Yes, one fair no some book over your boss.
Last night, there's another announcement. Last time I didn't found an answer yet.
No problem là.
I have a problem here.
Machine, bus nous te fait réservation pour nous partir demain si Dieu veut.
The buses that we rented for tomorrow.
Les réservations étaient faites après employé.
When the reservation was made, it was done with a discount. The person no longer works for the company. They do not decide to give us with the same price.
As a matter of fact, the price more than doubled.
Yes, puis avait doublé.
Plus que doublé.